All right, we are live, finally. Share out. Faces into the birds. All right. Well, we're going to start off with the Craig interview since it's going on right now at 1.25 speed. Then hop over to the documentary. Let's go!
So if you're sitting here screaming, hey, sup, Phil, you're not going to get my attention because I'm not going to be responding to you. I'm going to be talking with Craig. All right? All right. I think that's enough. I think I've prefaced it fair enough. And now, of course, the views are about to jump, I'm sure, because Craig's about to jump on. I hope I do this right. Apparently, how I did it last week, I did it wrong. Even though the show worked with Keem, I made mistakes. So I'm hoping I do it correctly this week.
DSP made mistakes?
Never.
So
I'll end my recording here. There's a little mini recording just to do a preface. And the next time you see me in an on-demand video, it'll be the interview. For those watching live, I am going to turn the screen off for a second to make sure I don't, accidentally disclose any information.
Exactly, Invader. How you doing?
And then go for here. Let's, hold on. I need to get my headphones on.
Amazing wear headphones again after not being able to wear them for years, guys.
Where the heck is it?
I'll get an ear infection.
All right. I will be back momentarily with Stuttering Craig. Okay, hold on.
I'm home from work in the gym.
Here we go. Already, I'm going to box
shower
this.
real quick.
So what I need to do, I think, is I need to end. Oh my God, where's my mouse? There it is. I think I need to end this.
Better get Jasper in there to find your mouse.
I can't even see the screen. I gotta get up and walk to my desktop PC to open the call.
You have such a stupid fucking setup.
And sit down before he jumps on, or he's gonna be looking at an empty chair. Because I can't do it from here because I have dual screens and I can't see the fucking Discord screen from here. All right, hold on.
You have literally the stupidest fucking setup, DSP. Maybe get Agent Pepper to show you how to do it. He showed me how to get mine set up right.
I think I've done it, but
mine was pretty fucking stupid too.
Well, I'm on screen. Now, how do I invite him? Hold on. Oh, hello, sir. Hello, how are you? Whoa. Oh, we cannot. Can anyone hear Craig? I cannot hear Craig, so let me see. I have technical issues here. Can you guys hear Craig?
Should have had this set up before stream started, jackass.
Okay, hold on. Maybe he's muted. We can figure this out. Hold on.
Dude, those are his emotional support cables. How did you fuck this up, DSP? You should have had this shit set up and ready to go.
Craig, I cannot hear you. We're not sure what's going on. It's not showing anything here. It's very odd because it's not playing audio through Discord either. Like, it's not showing you talking at all, as if your microphone's not working in Discord right now. See, if you were talking in Discord and it was working, the border around you would turn green. See how it turns green on me?
Let's try that. Is that better?
There you are. There you are. Cool.
There we go. I don't use Discord very often. So
it's all good. You probably used it more than me, and I've made a million mistakes with this thing too. So two boomers, right? Trying to use technology like that.
Boomers.
I think he still makes the tips go because the dents don't fucking care. What do the dents care?
I'll turn myself up real quick. Is that better on the mixer board? Is that better? Check.
How's he sounding, guys? I can hear him now. Can you guys hear him?
Okay. Good.
Say maybe some of his fans stopped supporting, but he's got all the new dents that aren't gonna fucking care.
Just like
they weren't here for the bankruptcy.
Which yesterday, when, we were hanging out like 15, 16 years ago at MagFest, or yesterday when I was on your podcast. I mean, we actually have a history that a lot of people don't know the whole history. You know what I mean?
so I mean, I guess, but at the same, like, I gotta be honest, 15, 16 years, I don't remember.
I know.
Much of that, right? So if you say we were hanging out, then we hung out. So, I mean, we probably played a few games together, I would imagine, over the years, yeah?
Right. Yeah. And, I actually, if you remember, I was a guest at Screwtack Gaming Convention in 2012, 2013. I was actually a featured guest. And I even was one of the finalists at the Iron Man of Gaming competition you had.
The Iron Man of Gaming, yes. That was so far ahead of its time, while also still being 20 years too late.
People are saying your volume's still a little low. Is there any way you could boost it anymore?
Yeah, sure. Let me see what I can do on my end. Let's see. So I don't use Discord very often, so let me kind of go into my settings here and check things out. Output volume. Let's see. How about this? Is that better? Did I boost me at all?
It sounds about the same, I think.
Okay, let me change this up. Here we go. Is this a little?
Oh, now you're muted.
I'm still muted.
Now you're unmuted.
Okay. Well, I think this is what's gonna have to do right here.
All
right. There's a picture of me in your background. Look at that.
Of course. I've upgraded, sir. Look at my setup now.
Listen, I'll tell you what. What an upgrade. Great job. Awesome.
Thank you. All right.
Wow,
so
Craig
let's
is so
get started,
fucking
because I want to
quiet.
respect your time. I know that
You guys need me to turn up the volume for them.
And just to forewarn everyone, and just to preface the whole conversation we're about to have. Stuttering Craig is on here today, and thank you for your time, Craig, for being on my.
My volume's up all the way. Damn it!
To have a conversation with me about last year, what happened with events leading up to, including, and after my appearance on the Side Scrollers podcast, because there's been a lot of stuff said, all right, on my side particularly.
No one
for sure.
fucking cares
A lot of
about that,
heated stuff I've
DSP.
said. Craig has responded on his content, and we never really sat down to have a conversation about it publicly. And I feel like this is the best way to do it, is to have a forum where we're just going to be cordial with each other. We're going to talk about it, hash it out, figure out exactly what happened, and figure out how to move forward from here. This is not an attack session on Craig. I've already said this right before Craig showed up, so I'm going to say it again because now we actually have him on the show. This is not, oh, I don't like Craig. Let's all in the chat rally against him and insult him and stuff. This is not, oh, you know, let's all take pot shots on Craig. There is no surprise guests that are going to show up. There is no shocking gotcha questions
Craig.
here. It's literally not about anything.
We want Craig, damn it.
Nothing. This is about just our
Lee,
interaction.
Mad Cats, how's it going?
And I want Craig, I want you to know that up front, because I know you had said that, of course,
from
my
working the
Detractor
gym,
is
got
have
a
to
shower
interject
in,
themselves
ready to
into every
go.
piece of anything I'm involved in, and they've been contacting Craig, saying, oh, he's going to get you, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. That's not going to happen, all right?
Well,
But now,
and
oh, go ahead.
and that's great. I was going to say, and to be fair, I mean, I have invited you. I've tried to do this probably 3 or 4 times since the end of that show to kind of have this exact conversation. So I am glad we're actually getting around to. Like I said, I said multiple times, I don't care if it's on our show or if it's on your show. I don't care. I think this is great. I'm glad we're able to.
All right, good. Now, that being said, I'd like to introduce Handsome Tom and Perfect Liz to the show. No, I'm just kidding. That's not happening.
Listen, honestly, I would love that. I would honestly love it. Great.
Okay, so I think what we should do to start the conversation.
So fresh, so clean,
is
right, Lee?
give a little bit of background about Craig, 'cause a lot of people, you know, on my show may not know, but Craig's been in this space for a very, very long time. Craig, in my opinion, was one of the innovators of making video game content on the internet. I mean, in mid-2000s, right? You were making big view content on your Screw Attack website, and this was before the era of like YouTube being prominent and everything. Like, you were there in the forefront, covering video games, doing countdowns, news stories, going to conventions, doing all kinds of stuff. And you've always been a prominent person in that space. It's not like you've come out of nowhere now with the Side Scroller show in the last year. You actually have a history, a big established history of making very prominent
Yes, I want Adam there.
that's
Adam
how I
will
knew
fuck him
Craig,
up.
is because I used to actually watch the Side Scroller show way back in the day, in the mid-2000s. And I was a fan of the Angry Video Game Nerd, who was associated with Screw Attack at the time. So that's kind of how I got turned onto their content and started watching. Over the years, I did have association with Craig and Screw Attack. For example, I went to, which I know Craig says he doesn't remember, I don't blame him. Way before I was even a YouTuber, I went to MagFest, this gaming convention, and we hung out like the whole time. Like, I was with these guys, and we were playing Street Fighter. We played Call of Duty together at the time. It was a Call of Duty competition, and we even judged a rock band competition together. I don't even know if you remember that.
Did we?
Yes, we did. We were
Wow.
both judges on the panel, judging people doing rock band and stuff. It was fun.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so that was like our first personal interaction. And then fast forward to years later, I was a YouTuber. I was a big
Say
YouTuber
first
in the
NFL
gaming
games on
space.
tonight.
Not top, but you know, I was bringing in 10 million views a month on my DSP gaming channel, and I wanted to go to conventions and stuff. And I had contacted you, and you said you were reviving the Screw Attack Gaming Convention. You were bringing it out of retirement, and I said I would love to be there as a guest, and you had me as a guest. And let me tell you, Craig, you were the most gracious dude. Like, I knew that you didn't really remember.
Why are you
me from
buttering him
Magfest
up
at the
so
time.
much?
You were like the most nice guy to me. You were there, and you know, you had a table, a vendor booth, and there was a little misunderstanding about a vendor booth with someone else, and we hashed all that out. And basically, you were so cool. And you know, so from my history of knowing you,
But then
Craig,
you betrayed me.
you were just a really nice guy. You were a good guy in the gamer space, making this content. We hung out at MagFest. You were so personable. You're such a nice guy. Meet you at Screw Attack Gaming Convention. So all the history I know of you is that you're just a really solid dude, right?
So what changed? What changed, Phil? When did I become so irrelevant?
Oh,
Yeah,
irrelevant.
it's
Not
like his
irrelevant.
DSP.
That's absolutely not. But basically, I want to preface this of how this whole thing came about, why I would even like want to be on your show and stuff like that. So I heard, what was it? It was either late 2022 or early 2023. I heard through the grapevine, hey, Phil, did you hear that Side Scrollers is coming back? And I was like, no, I didn't know that. Let me check it out. So I actually did my research, and I saw that you had announced that you were going to bring back Side Scrollers. It was going to be a fun podcast about gaming and, you know, all this stuff.
Then you
and I got
did
interested.
betrayed
Wow,
me.
that's cool. You know, I used to listen to the show when it was audio only.
Claconius, how's it going?
And it would be cool to see a revival. Now, I didn't know if you were going to have anyone back from the old show or anything, but I'm just curious. So I actually started listening to and watching your show when you revived it. And I just was thinking in the back of my head, now I know at this point, everyone hates me, right? Like, I'm the guy you love to hate on the internet. I'm the guy everyone dumps on.
Because you deserved it.
But I'm like, man, it would be fascinating if out of nowhere, out of the blue, if Stuttering Craig contacted me and asked me to be on a show. Because that would be wild, because I don't go on shows, right? I don't do interviews. I don't do anything. It would be such a cool thing for a guy from my past who, you know, I have a good relationship with. I mean, it's been 10 years since I talked to the guy.
Betrayed
but it would be pretty cool
me.
if that happened.
Snort.
And then lo and behold, you
Come on,
actually
say
did
it.
And I never thought in a while
Say
you
it.
would
Say you
have.
betrayed me.
So what I'd like to preface is that now we're getting to, you know, talking about what happened last year. What actually happened that you reached out to me like that out of the blue after 10 years of no contact?
Yeah, I think that, you know, when Side Scrollers was starting, you know, the show's evolved a little, right? Because it's now a decade later. Right? You can't be doing the same thing that you were doing a decade before and expect success. Evolving time. So
Wow,
when
he
Side
keeps
Scrollers,
cutting
the
out.
old
This
show
is
used to be
not good.
once a week for 30. But that was podcast 2006, 2015. It was
Craig, your audio is breaking up a little bit, and I don't know if it's your settings or your mic. It's kind of sucks. It is breaking up a little.
so the long and short of it was, like,
I like that the NFL told the players do not leave your hotel room.
Uh-oh. Yeah, Craig, we can't hear you now.
And the
at all,
hotel room is
so-
actually at the airport,
I don't know
so
what's
they get to the
going on.
airport and they don't leave until they go to the game.
Showing
And like when they go to London and all
Yeah,
that.
it's
So
still
yeah,
you're
bring
breaking
the
up.
kids
People
with
say
you,
if
bring your
talk louder, you get
family,
closer to the mic. I
let
don't
them
know.
walk
It
around
could
the
be
city.
sensitivity settings in
They were
Discord.
told,
Should I
don't
get
bring your
closer
family.
to the microphone?
Actually,
Is it better?
that's actually good.
All right, then I will sit right here the entire
Seriously,
time.
that's like really good.
Okay, then we'll just hold my microphone up right here. Okay, so when side scrollers, when I was like, okay, we got to bring back side scrollers, and the idea behind it was
I think his
I
gain
left the
or
video
noise
game
field
space
is
in
too
its
low.
entirety for better part, for about a year. I went and
Hopefully,
worked in
chicken.
the firearm, and when I left that startup, I looked back at the video game, and I didn't really have a whole lot of intention of ever going back. But I looked back to the video game industry places, like what happened, and that was the origin
He's still
story.
cutting out a lot. What the fuck?
So the idea of bringing it back.
How did
was,
you guys not
like,
get this shit set
there
up
needs to be-
beforehand?
Show needs to come back, and when we first did the show, the idea was we were going to try to mimic it after the old show.
Buffer wheel, fuck! Stop doing this.
The internet's not
YouTube.
the same as it was 10 years. So naturally, the show
Error.
had to shift,
YouTube
and
is not receiving
still
enough
has
video.
shifted,
You're getting the
and,
exact same
it's
video
become
you've
more
been
of a
getting. What the fuck is going on?
it's not
Do I
necessarily
need to
a
move
podcast.
more or
It was the audio
something?
version of the show, but it's more about being there in the live experience, right? So there's always 3 of us, 4 of us, the 4th person. Chat. Chat always has a voice as well.
Right.
So I just like back at Screw Attack, I knew that just how you got to know Screw Attack through the Video Game Nerd, or people got to know any of the number of partners that we've had throughout the years. Through Screw
Comcast's
Attack,
fault, guys, not
It's
mine.
always good to grow through association and the whole rising tides aspect. And that was always something from the start. Was I want there to be a base crew, and we'll have guests every day, and it'll be a rotating cast of characters. And that's where it came down to. I did a few interviews beforehand, and the idea was, well, I'll just reach out to everybody that I used to know and see if they're interested. So you were brought up, and I had not heard or talked to you in a decade, as you said. I certainly didn't know any of the lore, and kind of really anything. I didn't know if you'd seen success on YouTube. I didn't know if you'd seen. I certainly didn't know about the Detractor stuff. So that was, when we announced it, when I reached out to you, and you're like, sure, I was like, okay, cool. And the intention was for you to come on and just be a regular guest on the show.
Right.
And keep in mind, I think we're like 2 weeks into the show. I think we launched February 5th. And I think I announced you like the 1st of March, maybe like February or whatever. And when I announced you, and I announced several people at on
God,
the show,
setting Craig setup is annoying the shit
it was
out of
like-
me.
I remember almost immediately getting emails. We were like, "Dude, you sure about that? Like, are you sure? Do you know what's going on?" I was like, "No, I didn't know your entire background." So then the flood of communication comes in, and some people are like, "You should not have Phil on your show. You should not." And I was like my thing is communication. I like having conversations. Once again, which is why I reached out to you in the past about like, "Hey, well, let's just hash this out." And so naturally, people they reach out. They're like, "Do you know this about Phil? Do you know this about Phil?" No, and it became very obvious that there was a lot of lore to you and a lot of questions about it that people didn't either were assuming or didn't know the which is why I reached out. And I remember saying like, okay, listen, the intention was to have you on the show, but it's very obvious. Like, we just have this show, do a normal show, and not address the elephant in the room, which is, the fact that you haven't been on the show
Hey,
in
you're
a
a piece of
decade,
shit,
that you have
DSP.
all these questions about mobile games and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Like, then number one, it's a missed opportunity for you. And I don't want to be the guy who just like ignores all these questions, right? Because, it's interesting. So that's how and I was like, well, then we need to do an interview. And that's how the interview came about, right? And so we did the interview. You gave us 5 hours, which was very nice. I think you probably would have gone longer had everyone not kind of been tired. I mean, talking for 5 hours and doing that for 5 hours was a lot.
Right.
And you told us we were very
Yeah, I don't know
professional. You
what
really
is up
enjoyed
with
the
like
interview.
how does Craig not have a better
yeah,
setup for
I
this?
remember saying in particular you wanted to do it again. Like,
Right.
okay, cool.
Okay, hold
and-
on, because people are making some very positive suggestions. They're saying if there's anything in your settings that's like noise cancellation or stuff like that, because what's happening is you're talking, and as soon as you stop, it's dropping the next word you say, as if noise cancellation is like kicking in on your mic. That seems to be the issue. I don't think it's actually the distance. It's some kind of a noise cancellation filter, or you know what I mean, like a noise gate.
Yeah, this is weird. Good.
I understand it starts off with like a quartering or the Keemstar, but then
Dio
it gets
says
good.
there is a settings gear icon in the lower left of Discord. You click on that, there will be a voice and video tab or menu, and then there's an input sensitivity all on the left, and that would fix it.
So if I unclick that, will that be better?
Let's see.
Is that better now?
That sounds great, actually. I think we did it.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that was apparently the culprit here.
All right.
Sensitivity.
We've done it.
F you, Discord. Okay, so that leads us to we do the interview and
Right. Well,
and I
actually,
think-
let me jump in. because I do want to talk a little
And
bit about
bullshit.
you know my perspective going into this interview
Your
and the
your
conversations we
perspective
had.
of
All right,
spew
we
more
want to be
bullshit.
transparent about this, and I want to hear your perspective, and I want to give my perspective.
All
'cause
right,
let's be
excellent
honest, the
connection
truth is probably
again.
somewhere in the middle. That's what happens in all these situations. Okay, so from my perspective, you contact me out of the blue and you say, I want you to be a guest on the show. And I'm thinking in my head, I've been watching the show, and the show has been pretty entertaining. These guests get to kind of showcase their expertise from where they come from. They talk about the topics you're talking about, so it makes them look personable, it makes them look good. And then they get to kind of talk about their brand or whatever they're working on. And for me, I actually was just launching a new channel called DSP React. And the idea was that I was going to try to use this appearance as a way to kind of launch this channel. I had all these ideas for things for the channel and everything. And this is a way to get it out to a new audience. Maybe you're not interested in seeing me play games, but maybe you want to see some kind of React style content, right? So originally I was just supposed to be the guest. And then you said, well, there's an elephant in the room. All these people want me to interview you. And I was like, well, I knew this was coming because you might not realize this, but the year before, a lot of other prominent YouTubers had been talking about me in a very negative light. Okay, one of them was actually Moist Critical. And he had called me out.
And a lot more than him.
And I was e-begging too much, and how could I do this to my
You're
viewers and stuff like
e-begging.
that. And when he had done that, I was like, you know, I agree with him, because now when I look back at how I was talking on a particular stream, like I agree with this guy. Like I'm being a miserable wretch. I'm being an ungrateful jerk. I said, but the thing is, if that's the case, right? Why don't you ever interview me? Like if everyone has a problem with me, I conduct myself or whatever, I would just like to be interviewed and treated like a person rather than yelled at across the internet from their people's high purchase. It's kind of like punching down, right? I'm just a little rinky thing.
You're not a person,
and I got these giant YouTubers talking about me in a negative way. And I had announced the year before I want to do an interview. Well, of course, who contacts me who wants to do an interview? All my detractors, all these assholes. And I'm like, you know what? After thinking about it, I don't want to do an interview because they're just going to waste my time. It's just going to be really unfair treatment. So then when you reached out to me and now all of a sudden you're saying, oh, this is going to be an interview, I'm thinking, dude, I know Craig. Craig is a straight guy. You know, he's a straight shooter. He's not going to do anything to screw me during this interview. He's going to hit me with hard questions, and I want him to hit me with hard questions. I think I even had told you that previously when we were talking. So you can ask me whatever the heck you want. You might not like the answers.
You said you wanted it to be the definitive DSP interview, right?
And
then went to shit. Did I do anything during that interview that was dishonorable, or did I hit you at anything that because like I said, you finished that interview and you thought it was very fair. So
yeah.
did
I would say there were a few times that things were suspect, but at the same time, it was never outright like, oh, disrespectful gotcha moment or something like that. The one thing everyone's going to say is when Keemstar showed up, right? Now, I don't know how that came about. You know what? Let's clear the air about that right now.
Sure.
How on earth did Keemstar end up in my interview? Because obviously that was a shock. And if you remember how it happened, it was really questionable circumstances. Someone DDoS'd me off the internet.
He's got the what?
So I couldn't even
DSP the King account there
now
on WWE Champions.
Keemstar showed up on the show, and everyone's like, what the heck is this? Like, I'm sure this is a coincidence, right? So what actually happened?
Yeah, well, and once again, it's been 18 months.
That'd be funny to fuck with you.
Go through, and I'm going to look through my DMs right now to make sure I'm saying this correctly. But from what I recall, he had, like most people at the time, had reached out via DM. And let me see. I don't like to divulge private conversations, but let me go back as best I possibly can to see. Let's see, we did that on what?
FYI, because I don't know if you know this, Craig. I had Keem on the show last week, and we hashed everything out. We're good.
Cool, excellent.
So, there's no issue. There's no bad blood between me and him. So it's not like, oh, you're going to divulge something that he's going to be pissed about. Nah, we even talked about the appearance and everything, why he was on the show. So it's all good. I want to hear from your perspective how it came about.
So I think somebody had mentioned the idea of having him on, and I was like, well, if you're watching, then DM me. So he DM'd me, and the idea was like, look, you said beforehand you didn't want to talk with him, right? And I was like, fine, that's fine. Now, you said your internet went out, right? So that was like, okay, well, let's take this opportunity to, you know, we got Phil here. Let's take this opportunity to bring Keem in, right? Because he had DM'd me, and he was like, let's talk. And if you recall, during that interview, like I was attempting to honor your word there. You said you didn't want to talk to Keem. So I went out of my way to be like, listen, we'll only have Keem on if you're okay with it. And the intention, and I think I've said this at the time, was to build a bridge, right? Was to build, and to think about this, you probably wouldn't have had Keem on last week had we not done that on Side Strollers, had it not opened up the communication between the two, right?
I disagree. I would have had Keem on regardless. I don't think that him being on the interview had anything to do with him being on this show.
Bullshit, DSP.
Totally fair. But like I said, I'm just going off assumptions. I don't know.
That's fine. I want to hear your perspective. So this is good. This is good.
So the idea was to build a bridge, right? And whether it worked or not,
a bridge that DSP immediately
we had
burned.
John, and when your internet came back, you know, it was like, okay, I believe, and like I said, been 18 months. I believe we pulled Keem back, brought you back on, and said, hey, we have Keem here. Are you okay with this? Before Keem came back on, right? And the way I like to think of it is probably like it's halftime of a basketball game, right? So you go down to the sideline reporter to talk to the coach, right, or something along those lines, and you get there, and like Keem being the color commentator at the time to provide, hey, how do you think this is going, type of thing, you know? That's the best analogy that I can give, like off the cuff. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be.
Then they brought out the slave trade joke.
nothing that we've ever done has meant to be malicious towards you. And I've stated that continuously in my communication with you. It's never been meant to be to tear you down or make, as your words, make money off your misery. That's never been an intention at all.
It just
So
kind of happened.
Okay. So I understand what you're saying. I get it. But you have to understand that from an outsider's perspective, okay? Even what you just said, a lot of people didn't know. A lot of people didn't know that I told you beforehand that I didn't want to talk to Keem on this interview. So you've been told ahead of time, I don't want interaction with this man. Literally, one of my trolls who works at Comcast DDoS's me. I'm serious. This is proven it happened. There's actually evidence now, and the person's been.
Nope, the troll said that didn't happen. The troll said he had nothing to do with that. The troll has straight up denied any aspect of that. Why would he admit to other things but then deny that, DSP, unless he's telling the truth? That he had nothing to do with that.
Fired. So the troll who works at my ISP DDoS's me.
I can't wait to get to the end, Andre.
And you bring specifically the guy I told you I don't want any involvement in this interview onto the interview stream. So I think you can understand how that looks, right?
So while you're gone, I'm actually looking at our DMs with him right now. He said, let me pop on so when he comes back, he can respond, right? Because I believe, and once again, 18 months. I believe we were talking about Keemstar beforehand, right? So he was broached. The conversation about him was brought up, right? So I'm of the mindset that if I would rather talk with somebody than about somebody, right? And I've said it many, many times on our show, and I say that right now, which is why, once again, I'd much rather talk with you than about you. So I think that was the situation.
I just want to make some money.
He said, let me pop in so when he comes back, he can respond, right?
And can't fucking wait to see the end. I heard it get spicy on Twitter.
Keem then responded, you come back and you can then respond to what Keem said while still keeping you separate, right? But the opportunity was there. We're like, hey, well, look, once again, Keem, you can talk about DSP. DSP, you can talk about Keem. Why don't you just talk to each other right now and hash all this shit out, and everyone's better for it, right? So, if you saw it as like I said, my goal ultimately wasn't to create any distrust or anything. It was more meant to be a positive experience, and hopefully it was.
Okay, so from my perspective, all right,
you betrayed me. Fuck you.
So I'm getting DDoS attacked. I come back, and you ask me, hey, Keem's on the show already. Is it okay? Can we have him on? You absolutely did that. I can confirm 100%. I mean, it's already recorded, but yes, you did that. Yeah. That's very respectful of you that you did that. And I said yes. In my mind, I'm already desperately trying to get back on the show because if it looks like I cut out of the show, everyone on the internet is going to say I'm a coward. I ran from the tough question. So I'm doing everything I can to get back as soon as I can. The moment I get back, he's there. And it's like, I've already been grilled. And this is probably, a very stressful thing going on. I'm sure you could figure out for me. And then to now be presented with the man who I told you specifically I didn't want to talk to on the show. Yeah, it smacked me in the face. And then on top of that, you say, well, is it okay?
But you agreed
what if
to
I say
it.
No? Again, now that makes me look bad. I look like I'm the guy who doesn't want to play ball.
Yes, because you're a coward.
Who isn't willing to talk, who's just an obstinate jerk, who just wants to, have it his way. So, of course, I'm going to say yes. Now, in reality, did anything come out of that conversation with Keem? No. What happened was we went back and forth for like 5 minutes. Nothing came of it. And then he plugged his Happy Punch boxing, okay? Which is really the reason why he was on the show. All right, that's why he wanted to be on your show, to plug his.
He was trying to make more money for his business, unlike you, DSP.
Upcoming content. All right, he did want to talk to me for sure. That's true, but he definitely was on the show to plug his content, and that's literally what you allowed him to do, is do an advertisement. Okay.
So
yes, he wanted to make money, unlike you.
It's been 18 months. It's been a year and a half. My things are a little fuzzy, right? I'm looking through my email, and I actually don't see any reference to Keemstar at all in that. So maybe it was mentioned beforehand. I don't know. Maybe I knew there was some sort of beef between you guys or something.
Yeah, we did. We had beef on the internet, and I believe at one point, don't know if specifically it was like Keemstar, but I know you had said, is there anyone? I said I just want it to be us, right? I don't want to have guests coming on and stuff. I want it to be our conversation, right? That's what it was supposed to be. So, having this guy is shocking that he's in there. Why is he on this interview, right?
Okay. I get it, right? I get it. So, but with that said, we did finish up, and you were totally pleased with things, regardless if Keem appeared or not. You were pleased as punch. Said you want to do a second time. I said I'd like to do a second time, and to be clear, everything was great. And until the next
I'm glad that Craig's got the emails loaded and ready to go.
We had actually, in our discussions about this interview, the discussion was we were going to do this giant, hard-hitting, harsh interview. And then once we got through it, I can't remember the exact wording you used, but basically it was kind of like, let's get through the tough thing, and then let's do the fun thing, right? First, let's do the interview, then let's have you on as the guest as you were intended to be originally, right? That was the whole intention of this thing. So you're absolutely right. After the interview, I jumped on my own personal stream, and I expressed to my audience, listen, I knew it was going to be a rough interview. I knew he was going to ask questions that I wasn't going to be able to provide evidence of my side of it or whatever, and that's fine. I just wanted to have a place where people can
That's
see
why
all
Craig's
of my
got the
answers.
emails up
Stop
and
bugging me
loaded.
on my streams about this stuff because it really had nothing to do with my content. You know, you're talking about mobile games and expenses and shit. It has nothing to do with the broadcasting I'm doing every day of gameplay and stuff like that. I just wanted to be somewhere else. So I actually
Except your broadcast of gameplay is going to WWE Champions, which you've now admitted to being down from the rafters.
was happy that we had covered all of that. All right? So by the end of that day, 100%. I was okay with how everything had gone down, even the shocking surprise guest and all that. You know, whatever. So now I would like to hear your methodology about what happened the next day on your stream, because what you had publicly said, you could correct me if I'm wrong. You had publicly said on Friday, the day after, you were going to do a decompression day where you guys were just going to sit around playing Mario Kart, shooting the shit, and having a fun day. That was the original intention after this crazy interview, but that is definitely not what happened.
Yeah, so you're right. Like I said, we're going to do a decompression stream, and the intention was, and remember, once again, we're a month into the show, and at the time, we actually did test out like Friday gameplay streams, right? We were trying to test those things out. Now, some more context for you. The last time the audience saw Adam is the last time I saw Adam. So Adam left. He went to go have some dinner. So the first time that people saw Adam the next day was when I saw Adam the next day. Right? Maybe 60 seconds before we started the show.
Let's clarify. Adam is one of your co-hosts, because people might not know. He's one of your co-hosts on the side scroll.
Yeah, he was. He's doing his own thing now, which is great. And he just had a kid, and like.
Oh, he's not on the side scrolls anymore.
And
Boo, we would love Chatham.
Which, by the way, I do think that you and Adam should hash it out as well, right? Okay, so with that said, so the
Adam's
next
never
day,
going on that
we
show.
come in and we do a decompression, and really just for the first time have an opportunity to talk about what just happened. Usually this would happen like you did. You left and you went on and did your own decompression stream, right? And so that was our first opportunity to do our decompression stream. Now, Adam thought you were full of shit, right? And he said so in so many words.
Because
right?
he is.
And when, I think that's the thing about the interview, which was really unique, was, I had done a lot of research on you and everything leading up to, based off of, what right or not, what people were saying about you and questions about you.
Well, this is a good point to break off before we get to your Friday stream. So what exact research did you do? Like, who did you talk to? What information were you gathering upon? When you
I've already watched the documentary. I watched it live on Monday.
Notions were me going into this thing and how it turned out.
Now we're doing the DSP reacting
I did
to
talk
it.
to pretty much anybody and everybody that I could talk to about you. I mean, let me see if I can find my Google Docs about it, and I can tell you exactly what my research was. But yeah, I went in and made that. But I do want to finish my point here. And
okay, go ahead. Yep.
The idea that I had somewhat of a background. I'd done a couple weeks of research on you, like way more research than you possibly should do for an interview, right? But my thought was, and I said this before, and I'll say this again, I wanted to treat you with respect. I wanted to treat me with respect, and I wanted to treat the audience with respect, right? And I had a pretty good idea of what the audience was going to look like, right, for this. Here we go. I got this doc right here. Potential DSP questions, right? And this is, it's all various things that we touched on, right?
Now, where did this come from? Was this like you asked people what questions you would want me to ask DSP, and you've made a compilation? Is that what this document is?
No, I think a lot of this was just through various DMs and communication, things that people had asked and wanted to know about you. Obviously, the WB Champions thing, the various clips that broader questions. How do you think? Let's see. I'll just go down the list. I've been told not to interview you. Why do you think that is? When you stream, who is streaming, Phil or DSP? What have you done to change the perception from a production standpoint? Right. So, like I said, there's a list of these things.
Right.
And then there's like some of my notes in here, right, where we talk about. I remember one point in particular, we were talking about you've been doing this forever, but you don't have a business plan or a financial plan. People were really hung up about your taxes, so wanted to touch about that.
So yeah, you have no plans, just cry and beg for eternity until you die.
So Craig, you have to understand, literally every question you just asked. I mean, just think about it. Every question you just asked is basically like personal stuff, and it's stuff that my detractors would want to know. Okay.
Yes, because you're literally crying, guys. I have 2 big bills. What are those 2 big bills? Don't ask me that. That's personal. I just need you, yes, you, to pay my 2 big bills for me. But don't ask what my 2 big bills are. How are you going to sit there and tell people to pay your 2 big bills, but then not tell them what they are? Just to later finally admit that it was WWE Champions.
So now I'm just telling you from outside, from your perspective, from an outsider's perspective, or even my perspective, it sounds to me like what you did for 2 weeks is you just said, hey, everyone who doesn't like Phil, contact me and talk to me.
And they did.
I mean, you even had a
no
clip
one
from
likes
It's
you.
a Gundam, one of the most infamous people who rags on me all the time, as an audio question at the end of the interview.
Gundam, yeah.
What I would like to ask you right now, and I hope that you'll be honest with me.
Sure, I will.
In your efforts to gather information about me for this interview, did you talk to anyone who actually likes me?
Well, I think I was open to
No one likes you, DSP.
talking to anybody who would, but nobody reached out that said they really liked you. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean, I said I
Oh
was
no,
doing
there's
this
a good
interview.
reason for it, and I'll explain it in a second. But go
Well,
ahead.
but so with that said, like, when you say you're going to do an interview with somebody and you say, "Hey, I'm open to talking to all people," if there are people who go out of their way to like
Exactly,
you,
Andre. Who the hell likes you?
they didn't reach out to me, right?
Okay.
So your theory of like I only collected things from detractors at the time, you know what? It may be right, but once again, it wasn't malicious. These are all things that people were curious about. And
hmm
you have to admit, Phil, when you're essentially radio silent for a decade and people don't go in and they don't have an opportunity to interview you, it's important to flush those pipes out and just get it all out there, right? It goes back to the elephant in the room, right? When you have this giant elephant
Cat.
that everyone's staring at, if you don't have an opportunity to talk about those things, whether they're personal or not, right? Then they should be addressed, because that is what the DSP lore is all about.
Right.
So if you did have to use the opposite side of this, the detractor versus the champions for DSP, not a single champion reached out and was like, "Hey, did you know this? Did you know that Phil donates to charity? Did you know whatever?" Right? And
He
had
doesn't.
they, then we would have. Now, with that said, leading up to this, you also knew what this was going to look like, because
Mhm.
you prefaced me. I mean, I have our emails pulled up, and you gave me like sent me ammo saying, "Hey, this is what I think they're going."
Exactly. Keenan, exactly. For someone who wants his dents to fund his entire lifestyle, you'd think people would like to know where his funds are going in order to make life easier. Let's pin that. Exactly. You can't sit there and say you have 2 big bills, but then ban anyone who asks you what those 2 big bills are. Guys, my 2 big bills are coming up. What are they? Oh, my HOA fees are due again, and I got property taxes. Okay. I understand. Here's $10. As opposed to, guys, I got 2 big bills coming up. What are they? No, you're banned for asking that. It's a personal question. No, make sure you pay me. Well, what the fuck, DSP? It's like, there was a medical charity thing where people are like, hey, I need $40 for this. My insurance doesn't cover it. And then people go, all right, well, I like what they're saying or whatever. I know where my money's going. They donate $40. As opposed to a lot of charities where it's like, hey, 70% of donations go to CEOs' private jet flights. Wait, what? Why are we going to give you $100 if only $30 is actually going to the charity? And so they have a medical charity thing where it's like, hey, I'm 72 years old. My Medicare covers everything but this, and it's $40 a month. Oh, hey, yeah, I'll sponsor you. Here's $40 a month, because I know my money is going to this person, $40 a month, to pay, whatever medicine that the Medicare doesn't cover. And guess what? It's actually a kind of successful idea. Now, could people lie? Could someone be on there, I'm an 87-year-old grandma and I need money to pay my bills, and then spend it on W champions? Sure. But you have the idea of, no, this old lady needs $40 for medicine. This person needs $60 a month for his bus pass because walking to work triggers his asthma and he can't fucking breathe. And stay out of the hospital, racking up more bills. Bus pass is cheaper, but insurance won't cover that. And his job, he's barely making the bills come by anyways with all of his medical shit. So if you could get $50 a month to pay for his bus pass, great. But then you have an idea of what your money's going to, as opposed to banning anyone who asks you what the 2 big bills are, while in the same breath begging them to pay you 2 big bills.
Going to ask. And I feel like I've addressed a lot of these things. You sent me videos of you addressing these things. But as you said, you wanted this to be the definitive DSP interview, right?
Right.
So if you want it to be the definitive DSP interview, then naturally I should be listening to everybody who has criticisms of you. And if there is this lore that's attached to it, then I wouldn't be doing my job as the interviewer to do research.
I wonder if he's going to
and
unban everyone he
believe.
banned for
Otherwise,
asking
it's a
about W champions.
Okay. And fair enough, and I accept that answer.
If you
And
become
now
a
I'm
member
gonna give you my
tonight,
response, okay?
Sure.
And you probably don't know.
remember
this,
during the stream, you'll
alright?
be able to see the new
Reason
video
that
that
my
goes live
fans
tonight.
Don't reach out and get involved in this kind of stuff is because my detractors, okay, those people who you were talking to get questions to ask me, systematically hunt down, harass, dox, and do horrible things to anyone who publicly supports me. Okay, and I'm not just talking like, oh, someone was in the chat and said I like Phil. I mean, they'll try to hunt these people down, find their.
They found out that one of my fans was a pedophile, and they forced me to ban him. I didn't want to ban him just because he's a pedophile, but they forced me to. It was bullshit. I shouldn't have to ban someone just because they're a pedophile.
Social media, find where they live, find where they work, call them, harass them, call them pedophiles, do horrible things to them. There's been supporters documented who give me a $100 tip and then they get hacked and stuff. It's really, really messed up. I mean,
Derek is a pedophile.
Case in point, Craig, do you not remember? Maybe you don't remember this. It was like a week or two before the interview. They tried to dox you. You remember that, right? And I told you about it. I said, just so you know, they gave your an address on the internet, and I don't think it's real. And you know, they did it to you. So if they're doing it to you, obviously they're not going to. My fans who like me are not going to speak up in a public venue like that and be like, oh yeah, now I want to talk about Phil. No, they'll watch me, they'll silently support me, as they have done for a very long time, but they're not going to put themselves into the line of fire of these already deranged people.
Yeah, Phil's not a good
and
person.
You maybe didn't know that.
No matter how much
So
he tries to claim,
here
guys, I'm Catholic, so I'm a good person.
Doing what you thought was fair, but a lot of people were going into that interview thinking, okay, he's going to ask tough questions, but at the same time, maybe we'll talk a little bit about the positivity about Phil's 16-year history on YouTube. The good old days, or even what's good about what he does today, how he's improved, stuff like that. Like, there was none of that. It was literally just like negative.
It's all you deserve, DSP. It's all you fucking deserve.
All right? But from, again, outsider, they're looking at the situation like Craig just sat around for 2 weeks claiming he did all this research, and all he literally did was talk to the people who hate Phil the most, compiled it into a ball of negativity, and threw it out.
Because no one who actually likes you was willing to talk to him. I wonder why, DSP.
And that's the perception of that interview at this point from those who aren't my detractors, basically. In fact, just to give you another example, Mike Clone, who I was planning on possibly doing a documentary with this year, said to me directly, you realize that Side Scrollers interview was just for your detractors, right? Like, no one else cares. No one else watched it and said, oh, it was literally a detractor interview. And it's all it'll ever be. That's why you should do positive content like a documentary, because you need to have parts of your...
And then you said no and canceled the documentary because you're a bitch.
You know, personality come out. No one saw that in the interview because it was literally detractor question, detractor question, detractor question.
With all due respect to Mike, do you not think he was just puffing up your chest to try to get you to do a documentary with him?
Of course he was. I mean, let's be honest. Of course he wanted to do a documentary with me. But, I mean, from all this nonsense, there's always a little moment of truth, right? And it rings true. That interview, if you watch it back, you don't get to learn anything about me besides all the things people don't like about me. And that sucks, because that's there forever. That's a video that launched you guys into prominence for a while, right? I think you can agree. Can we agree there? Can we just say that interview did give you a launching board to popularity, right? And I'm not saying that anything that came after is a result of me. I'm not. But was that not the piece of content that launched your show into prominence and people wanted to hear from the Side Scrollers?
I think that it raised awareness that Side Scrollers was back. But just to think that anybody who watched that, like, I would say we had...
Way to puff up your ego, DSP.
2,500 people tuned in live to watch that show, right? We had 3,000 watching our show today, right?
That's right.
Of that 3,000 who watched our show today, how many of those of that 2,500 were there?
Probably zero, because your show today is a different show. It's completely different content.
Well, it's not an interview. It's not about Phil. And I think I recognize that, right? Now, did it raise awareness? Sure. Is it why the show has been successful? No. You know,
oh, no, and I agree with you. Your show is taken off, and I want to say kudos and congrats to you for having a very successful show now. I mean, it's blown up, and that's great. But people,
you know that Jesus guy is Italian, according to all the things I've read online, guys.
Awareness, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Just like me.
Just like our interview with the Tetris CEO, or us talking about Concord.
I've not seen the ending yet, but I heard it gets spicy on Twitter.
The show was changing. We were trying to figure out what the show was, and it took about a year before we figured out what the show was.
Yeah, you remember you were saying on the show, no politics, and now it's like it's completely flipped. Like, that's mostly what you're talking about these days.
I disagree. I don't think what we talk about is politics at all. I think we talk about the culture of this stuff.
Fair enough. Okay, not hardcore politics. I agree with you there.
Very rarely do we actually talk about Democrats or Republicans or anything like that. No, we talk about the culture associated.
Culture, I get it.
Which I think from a video game perspective is way more important than whether a game gets a 7.
I'm sure I will, Dark One. How you doing? How's everybody doing today? Shut up. How's everybody doing today, guys? So just one more day until the weekend. Now, mind you, I work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I got Monday off. Can't have the case on the Mondays if you don't work Monday, right? Then I get Saturday off. I got a Saturday off for the first time in forever. Woo! And of course, football. First game's on tonight. Who is it? It's what? Bills, Ravens, I think. What was I gonna say? Go Bills.
And I think that's what's limited, because at the end of the day, you see a number of
or no, it's Chiefs.
Side Scrollers is working.
Chiefs, Ravens. Go Ravens.
We know that there are a bunch of, as we say in our chat, our community is called normal men. They're called normal men for a reason, because there's a bunch of normal men who are looking around going like, yo, what the hell is happening? And this isn't right. This is not normal. And the thing about side scrollers, we do the exact same thing now.
Got home
that
from work
we
in the
did
gym,
decade
got a
ago, just
shower
in
in,
a
I'm
different
feeling
package.
great.
Because a decade ago, we were laughing at all the stupid shit that was happening in the video game space. Now there's just way more stupid shit that happens in the video game space that we can talk about.
Ravens
every day.
versus Swifties.
You know, it's the same premise. It's just in a different package.
Hey, showing Taylor Swift gets
so
an extra 10
anyways,
million
with that said,
viewers.
like I said, the
Good
show
for
is
them.
evolving, the show is changing, and you know, we haven't done like an interview on the show in I'd say almost a year. You know, because the interviews were fine, and they were originally supposed to be a regular weekly part of the show. But once again, it takes a while to figure out what the show is, and now we have a good idea of what the show is, who our audience is, and we're there now. Once again,
And
did
they
those
don't care about
help raise
interviews.
awareness? Absolutely, but I can't. You know, I'd say it's a chapter of the side scroller story, and just as side scrollers is a chapter of the DSP story.
Sure. I will agree with you on that. The show today has nothing to do with me. I'm not trying to take credit for it whatsoever in that regard. You've done good for yourself.
Yes, you are.
Putting it in its new own space and it stands out. Okay. So getting back to now, because we did get derailed there talking about the beforehand. So the interview happens. All of a sudden, all eyes are on you guys because you did this interview with DSP. Friday is supposed to be a decompression stream with Mario Kart, but instead it turns into something else. So now let's get into this. So what
Turns into them making way more fucking money, which pissed you off.
We talked about things, and we do what we do every day. We just talked about what's in the news. The difference was that we were the news, and the interview was the news in the sphere, and people wanted to hear our thoughts about it for the first time, and that was the first time we got together. So you know, you listen to your audience, and when the audience says we want to hear your thoughts about what happened yesterday, you do that. And for us, it was a Friday,
No, you don't do
so
that. You don't give the
naturally,
fans what they
we're gonna
want.
talk
What are
about it,
you,
and
an
we're gonna
idiot
do
for
the
giving the
decompress-
fans what they
decompress,
want?
and then we're going to resume the show on normal on Monday. It doesn't matter if Mario Kart was played or not. The intention was still the same, was to talk about what just happened the day before for the first time, just like you did the day before with the decompression stream.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was it what you wanted to hear? No. But was it honest? Yes. And honestly, I think that when it comes to the reasons why we were upset was, and specifically Adam was,
Because you
upset,
lied.
was because
Did nothing
he
but
smelled
lies.
shit, and whenever he'd say it, you know, it was like talking in circles. And I think that there's like a lot of that stemmed from the WWE Champions thing. That's where a lot of the meat came from, right? So we asked you about that several times.
And you denied every
We
time.
got the runaround on it. We all knew it was the runaround, right? There were, you know, we talked about you sharing your account, and then, you know, and then that didn't happen, and that was when the internet went out and everything associated with that. And so you know, we were upset about it, right? Because we smelt the shit. And I think that there's like actually like a lot of irony when it comes to this, in that like just was yesterday, you know, I get sent clips to you all the time, and leading up to this especially, you know, where you talked about WWE champions, and you said that, you know, you spent you know, forever lying about it, right? So with that said, like, do you think
Now he
that
tells the truth,
you know,
guys.
you
He
admitted
swears.
to lying about this, right?
Yeah, Adam could
Do
definitely
you
smell the
think that we
bullshit.
had a right
He was
to be
having
upset
none of
because
it.
We felt you were lying. We knew you were lying. You admitted to lying.
Mhm.
Do you feel that we had a right to be upset the next day?
Well, let me put it into
Let me lie.
into these terms. Okay, when a guest is going to be on a show and is going to be interviewed, and they know there's going to be hard hitting questions, and that was all previously established. All right, we knew all this was going to happen. That's why I agreed to do the interview, because I felt like this was going to be it, the definitive interview or whatever. Okay, never in my wildest dreams did I expect that the next day after the interview you were going to do that. You didn't even tell the public you were going to do that. And now, let's be honest here. What actually happened on that Friday show
should've given me
is
money
you
for
talked
it.
to my detractors almost the entire show. You were reading all of their contributions as they rolled in. I think some of them were previously from the interview the day before. I want to be fair here. I think there were like leftovers you hadn't shouted out the day before. And then there was a ton of contributions that came in that day from my detractors. So you just sat there reading them. And
Good.
okay, you're upset
As
with
they
me, you don't
should.
believe me, you smell shit. All right. But there's a difference between saying, well, we just did this big interview, we don't believe him, versus actually like actively participating in memes that they have about me.
Memes.
Your entire cast laughed ack on the show.
Yes, as they
As if this
should.
was something funny to do to deride Phil. I was the guest on
Vanguard,
your show
how's it
before
going?
for 5 hours.
Mhm.
I was on your show
JDX,
to
holla
answer
holla.
hard-hitting questions.
Giving your
Never
wife a
did
break,
the
huh?
answers.
Hold on. Did you answer? Because you.
Oh, I
didn't.
did. Oh, indeed, I answered. You just didn't like
No,
the
no,
answers.
Phil, don't flip that on me, because you didn't. You were dishonest with us, and we
That's-
smelt that.
It's
We
still an
smelt that,
answer.
Phil.
It doesn't matter if it's honesty or not. It's still an
Okay,
answer.
No, it's not. Holy shit. Are you fucking kidding me, DSP? What the fuck? Really? Doesn't matter if I lied. It's still an answer. It doesn't matter if I lied. It's still an answer. He literally just said it doesn't matter if I lied, it's still an answer, so you shouldn't get upset about it. You shouldn't get upset with what I said, even though it was a lie, because it was still an answer. Are you fucking kidding me?
Then let me ask you this, Phil. Will you apologize for lying to us? Because that's where a lot of that came from. It's like we knew you were lying, right?
Okay.
And I gave you an opportunity multiple times. I remember pleading with you, Phil, just come clean on this. And the opportunity was there. And had you just come clean at that instance, everybody would move past this. So I do think that, like, once again, why were we upset, Phil? What's the root of all this? We felt and we knew and we smelt a lie. We smelt it, right? So and you admitted yesterday to lying to us. So that to me stings, because you're not only lying to me, you're lying to your audience, you're lying to my audience, and you're lying to everybody else. So you should apologize to me and Adam and Travis and everybody else who watched that show, because they were expecting the definitive DSP interview, and what they got was lies. That's not definitive, Phil. That's the issue I had with this.
Okay, now since we're getting into the nuance of it now, let's go talk, because the lies you're talking about are
nuance.
That's what we're talking about. Let's go in on.
But will you apologize though? Because that's
let's hold on. Let's talk. Let's do this. All right. Let's, like, man to man. Don't demand something from me now. Let's talk.
Don't demand from me. Don't you know I'm a king?
I'm asking. Okay.
If in that interview, all right, I had been honest with you and completely transparent, and I said, fessed up to everything, right? Immediately you would have said, that's great. Prove it. Correct? You would have said, prove everything you're saying.
And we gave you the opportunity to.
Okay. Now let's be real about this, because I don't want you to lie to the internet about it. I want to be real about it.
What the fuck, DSP?
In that interview, all right, you said to me, show me evidence of what stuff you're saying. Show me screen captures or whatever. And I'm going to be honest with you. No, I was never going to do that on the fly, because I'm the kind of guy, I want to make sure if I'm going to do something like that, I want to make sure everything's safe. I want to make sure it's correct. I'm not going to send you something just to say it wasn't good enough. I want you to show you the definitive evidence to prove what I'm saying or whatever. Okay?
Yeah, screenshot of your fucking phone.
I didn't know you were going to hit me with that. Honestly, I thought you were just going to ask me questions and I was going to answer. I didn't know you were going to say, this is your opportunity to actually clear this up. I never.
Yeah, it's face to face with a person who can punch him as soon as he lies about bullshit.
How can I do this? How can I do that? I need to get this stuff together for you, right? And you had left the door open. In fact, this is what, near the end of the interview, we were talking about this. If you want to, clarify everything, you can send it to me after we're done here. We even left the door open for that, correct? You remember that, right? I'm not making that up. That was correct.
Right. And to be clear, I actually have our emails pulled up.
Sure.
Yes.
Pulled up. I think that
read the emails.
Part and I can read my part, just so everybody is on the same page and there's full clarity on all this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I don't need to read them. I know exactly what they say.
Shows your toilet. Terrible, Monica.
Just so
that doesn't get cleaned like the rest of the house.
To say that there's not a couple, few thousand people who once again, this is part of the story of how we got here, right? So I do think it's important, because I don't want to leave any context out. So do you mind if I read our emails after the just our back and forth that we had after, because I think it does provide context to what we're talking about here.
Sure. This is the email that was sent after I got off the show.
Yeah.
Because I believe there was an email then, and then I emailed you again after I'd eaten dinner about, are you available? Are you going to be checking this email box? And that was where we had left it. And then the next day you emailed me something in the morning, correct? That's the chain of events.
Because he wasn't up until 3 o'clock in the morning. His issue with this is, well, he didn't email me right away. Well, you emailed me like midnight. I'm not awake, asshole.
Okay, so it happened on
JDX
of last year, right?